makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode of Female Founders, we are going to have a conversation with Umaimah Mendhro. She is the CEO and founder of VIDA and also the founder of One League in collaboration with Harvard, MIT, Stanford, and global industry leaders to provide better education and mentorship to students around the world. Hi, Umaimah. Oh, by the way, I love your name. I'm planning on just stealing it and change my name to your name. I hope you're okay with that. So you are the founder of several businesses, and one of them being One League, and that works toward making education more better for less privileged globally. So you have some really exciting adventures, and also your life story is another one that I'm interesting about. Also, you grew up in a rural Pakistan and then moved to Saudi Arabia with little education, and now being a successful business owner. Can you tell us the backstory from Pakistan to Saudi Arabia? How did you all get there in the first place?
Yes, I'm very happy to. And thank you so much for having me as your guest. And yes, you may steal my name as long as I can steal yours, because I love your names, Nagelia. That's a really, really beautiful name.
Thank you.
So backstory for me is that I was born in Pakistan. I was born in a small town called Hyderabad in Pakistan. When I was 2 years old, we in our country had the second military coup that happened. And my parents were involved and very active, I would say activist socially. And we had to escape the country in the middle of the night. We were displaced for about a year or so. We were in the UK for some part of that time. And then we went to Saudi Arabia, where we established our life from there on. So we lived in exile for 10 years. While I was in Saudi and I was in Mecca and then Jeddah, for most of that time, I actually didn't have access to a proper school. When we went back to Pakistan, which was when democracy was restored, and I was about 12 years old, we actually went to rural Pakistan. And as I was in rural Pakistan, once again, there were no proper schools that I could go to. So for most of my life, I was self-educated, homeschooled. I would wake up in the morning and, grab a bunch of books that were part of sort of the official curriculum. And I would just read them. And I would say that, that really is where my love for education really started, because it wasn't something that I had access to, and there were no set expectations, no sort of social issues and pressures of middle school and high school, And really, I felt like I was free to explore and learn whatever I was most curious about.
Well, this is awesome, but do you feel that also that type of education, that's what get you where you are right now? Kind of like make you more curious?
I think it has played a really tremendous role. At the surface, it sounds like, it is essentially lack of education, right? I didn't really have incredible teachers as I was growing up. I didn't have, someone teaching me, basic English and science and math. But that is where, that sort of real desire to actually, number one, go to an incredible educational institution came from, because I didn't have that access. But then two, education for me ended up being about knowledge. It really became about going out and learning things that I didn't know, and I don't think that as young children, we think of education, or we think of going to school in those terms. So for me, it was about curiosity. It was about, there's this whole world that I don't know about, and I want to figure it out. And I think with the lack of sort of access to education, but also, coming from pretty humble backgrounds and having sort of a lot of uncertainty, around us, I think that also gave me the fire to make something of my life, to really be able to do something that matters, that makes a difference. So I will say that those challenges early on in my life have a huge role in, making me who I am today.
Wow. Can you imagine that? It's those little things that happen in our childhood and tomorrow turn out to make us like that great leader, that great businesswoman, that person that's actually creating organization to help other people. It's those experiences, I guess, they play a very big role, and we should take them seriously in our early life. So my question is, how did you get into tech?
How did I get into tech? So when I was ready for college education, I was actually really interested in art and fashion. And I wanted to be a fashion designer. And I'll tell you, that is not, an expected path, not in Pakistan, not kind of from, the background that I was coming from. And so my parents were actually quite supportive of that. And they said, yeah, sure, explore fashion, explore art, explore design. And I did. I did for a little while. I tried to, this is before I went to college, I tried to establish my own fashion line. And I found it so difficult to get that first foot in the door, because I would go to a small factory, and I would ask them to make 10 pieces for me, which they would maybe happily do. But after that, what happens? I don't have, capital to be able to give them a large order. They're not going to stop their machines to make, another 5 pieces for me. And so it became really evident to me that it would be very difficult to actually, get my break in the fashion industry. So very quickly I said, okay, I need to take this, more seriously. I need to have a proper career. And then living in Pakistan, I, really had to pick a university in Pakistan. I was right from then, very interested in going to some of these top institutions in the world that I had heard about, places like Harvard and Stanford and MIT, but those were not accessible to me. That was not a possibility for me. And so I was only allowed to go to a university in Pakistan. I picked the top university in Pakistan called Lahore University of Management Sciences. Was very difficult to get into, and I got into it. And they only had 2 majors, economics and computer science. And I picked computer science. I did eventually, though, transfer out of that university. I went to Purdue, then I went to Cornell University, which is where I graduated from. And I studied computer science, but I majored in human development. So my interests were really very broad. I wanted to learn about human psychology and sociology and the world. And but I was also quite intrigued by numbers and mathematics and computer science. So I got to kind of blend the two once I had a bit of a bigger landscape, at Cornell, and more than 2 majors that were possible for me.
Oh my goodness. So after working in the tech and business industry for years, what prompted you to say, hey, I'm going to start my own business?
Yeah, so that interest, I would say, was always there. Even when I was trying to be a fashion designer, I wanted to build my own line. And I wanted to really one day, and I remember, I must have been a preteen, and my daughter is today a preteen, and I can actually see in her that same fire as well. But I wanted to start my own company one day, and when people would be like, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a scientist, I was like, I want to start a company, and I want to start a company that really, really matters. I remember in the middle of the night, I would be daydreaming about, what kind of company I could start and what kind of stuff it could do. And I always had this idea in my mind that I want to do something that could really reshape an industry. Like, it's important enough, it's big enough that we can really rethink how things are done, on a default kind of a manner. We can question the norms and we can really rebuild something. And that always kind of was very sort of intriguing to me. And there were certain different kind of problems that I would always be thinking about. And so entrepreneurship, and starting something of my own was always on my mind. But I will tell you, I found it very difficult to actually take that leap of faith and actually do it. So I worked, for a very long time, as you mentioned, in the tech industry. I worked at Microsoft for many years. I was heading up internal incubation there, research and development, and had incredible experience. And in the product manager kind of a discipline, which really was another reason why I fell in love with this idea of starting something of my own, because as a product manager, you're responsible for one particular product or a feature. But you're the one really thinking about, what should be next for that product? How do I grow this, grow the adoption for this product? So I had a lot of, I would say, training, in my technical and business background to be able to, one day start that company. But yeah, it took me a while to get there.
But I think that your experience also kind of get you ready, because when you talk about how to sell the products, how to put that product, it's kind of like you build this type of experience. When it's come to your own, it will become a lot easier for you to even say, hey, I know how to bring this to the people that I'm going to sell it to. So I guess your experience also play a big role on starting your business. It kind of get you ready for it as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I will say that, going to Harvard Business School did play a huge role. That was a huge gate opener for me. I learned so much from a experience and education and knowledge perspective. So I definitely felt like that education, was really meaningful from the perspective of, learning everything from accounting to, marketing to strategy. But then also it had a huge role in terms of the doors it opened for me, in terms of the people I got to know, in terms of having that credibility to when I was ready to raise funding for my company, to have sort of that approval from Harvard behind me, made a huge difference as well.
Absolutely. So your company, One League, could you tell us about the company itself? What is it? How does it help? What does it do? And then the services behind it?
Yes, it links back to, what we were just talking about, in that the education that I was fortunate enough to then ultimately have access to, from not having any access to, getting to Harvard Business School. I saw that really change my life. And I knew that. I always, growing up, I knew that education would, can make or break one's future. I also, growing up, really believed that education is the biggest equalizer, that if you work really hard, right, and if you can get a great education and you do really well, at your school, you make the most of that opportunity, then, you can really make your life. But what I learned, and for me, this was, in this post-pandemic kind of time frame, where my other company, VIDA, we had been running it for over 8 years now. And, we were all sort of dealing with this, global pandemic, where I started to learn and started to kind of explore a little bit more, the world of education. And what I learned, that I did not know before, was that when we talk about world-class education, education that is really from the top-notch institutions of the world, then that level of education is highly, highly inaccessible. It's really not possible for vast majority of the talent that is out there. Not just vast majority of the population, but the talent that actually would qualify. So if you think about, there's millions and millions of people who actually, the projection is that there's 25 million people who would qualify for a place at one of these top institutions in the world. But if you add up all the spots at these institutions, then, we're talking about a few thousand spots.
Yes.
And what is happening is that people in families that are coming from a place of privilege, they have a leg up when they're applying to these institutions. And this is not necessarily by design. It's not as if Harvard or Stanford is saying, I only want this kind of population or this profile. But, there are these systemic sort of influences, right? Where who has access to even learning about these standardized tests, SATs, and all of that. So it really starts very early on. But what is the truth is that, over 74% of the population that attends these top institutions comes from the top income bracket. So they're amongst the richest. Less than 3% comes from the bottom income bracket. In fact, the household income of people who are going into these institutions, it's over $700,000 US annually. So how do how do we get more people, to have a voice? How do we get more seats at the table? That's really what One League is all about. And really kind of with the idea that there's so much more talent that we want to tap into that can really help us solve some of the biggest problems that we're facing as a global society today. So what we're doing is we are collaborating with three of the best institutions of the world. They're Harvard, Stanford, and MIT. So we're closely collaborating with those three institutions, and we're offering education from those institutions with faculty that we're working with directly that is former faculty from these institutions. They've taught at some of the best institutions in the world. They've studied at some of the best institutions in the world. And then we pair every fellow, every student who joins us with a mentor. And the idea is that, if you think about the network that I was talking about, right, the network is so valuable. How do we recreate that network? We don't have any alumni because we just got started. So what we do is we take alumni of Harvard, Stanford, and MIT, and those individuals, they become the mentors to our students, and our mentors open doors for people. Our mentors not only give advice and guidance, but they actually are there to champion the success of these individuals, with the goal that, we want to create new kind of leadership all around the world, and we don't want where the best talent leaves the country and we have the brain drain problem, but rather we want to keep the talent in their countries and, train them in the best education. We want to take the world-class education to them rather than bring them out of their, their communities, and enable them to give back to their regions and their communities. Yeah.
I love it. It's like them can be leaders in their own communities because that community need them. So they don't need to come to United States and then be a part of something else, but they can just make a difference where they are and still be like they are in United States because they are learning from someone that can teach them like that.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I didn't think of that. This is fabulous. It's awesome. So, but now my question is there a fee to the mentee?
To the students. So we are offering a 100% scholarship, tuition-free scholarship. So our inaugural class is joined and is enrolled at One League without any fees at all.
So they can actually join this 100% for free, pretty much.
Yes. So what we did was, I took a grant from VIDA. So my other company, Vita, which has been a successful e-commerce company, we made a donation from Vita to start the Global Scholarship Fund, is what we call it, the One League Global Scholarship Fund, of $1 million. And with that, we're funding education for incredible talent from all over the world. That's where we will start. We'll continue to have a global scholarship fund so we can continue to provide that world-class education to top talent, all over the world. And that is really the goal and the idea. Now, if you think about, being able to deliver education online, we don't have to invest in huge campuses. We don't have to invest in infrastructure, right? So our expense is actually much lower. And that is sort of the important part about the model itself, is that we're decoupling, from education, all the other sort of features, services, etc., that are not really directly related to providing that education. And by doing that, we're making it more inclusive and more accessible, because even as we start charging, if we charge our students for the One League education, it will be a fraction of the price, really, less than 10% of the price, of what a beautiful campus, large R&D, research and development departments, all the other expenses that are part of, the education industry today.
But I don't think you understand that what you just did is the fact that shows that how much you care about helping the students. You not only take money out of your other company and donating it to the other one. That's not something you find very often, Usually they go ask people for money to put into the company, but you did the opposite of that by putting your own into it, which shows that you care a lot. You have a passion for this. This is very close to your heart, and it's important that this succeed. So I hope that all the students appreciate it.
They do. Sometimes I worry that they appreciate it too much, and I don't want them feeling indebted to anything. I feel like they are such an incredible group of people. I'll tell you, if you, Nigelia, you should interview all of them, because they have incredible stories. They come from all over the world, over 40 different countries, from Afghanistan to Brazil to Uganda to Sierra Leone to, Malaysia, so many countries. And they are, most of them are first generation going to college. So their parents have never been to college. Many of them are supporting their families fully. So they are the ones, actually paying for their siblings' education, their cousins, their nephews and nieces. Many are war refugees. They have escaped their country. They have escaped conflict. Many are immigrants. But amongst our group, there's also, top 100 women in technology. There's also Forbes 30 under 30 from Africa. There's presidential scholars. There's Fulbright scholars. So it's just a incredibly talented, group of people who are also coming from very challenging upbringing and very challenging backgrounds. And coming back to, where you started this, right, and where you asked me about my challenging background and, whether that has played a role in this or not. And I would really say that if you have a challenging background, take it all and do something with it, build something, because you could understand a problem that perhaps, everybody else around you doesn't see, and I bet you it's a problem that many, many other people are also facing. So if you could come up with that solution, and utilize your unique background and your unique story in order to provide that solution to the world, that is something that I feel like we can all be grateful for.
Absolutely. And then let's take you as an example. You put your own money into this company to help. And especially with the pandemic. Who's doing it right now? I don't think anyone is. Not even the big boys, all the way in the top there. So it's great to hear that type of things from other women. It's like we are doing great things out there, but for some reason, no one knows about them. Why not? People should know because we are. And
you're thinking that you're telling those stories, and I think I agree with you that is important. This 1 million grant, I've never taken any money out of VIDA for myself. So it's not as if we sold the company and then we got a lot of money. And so personally, I did not take any money from the company, and I just take a salary from the company, but. We are a profitable company, and we've always promised to put, a percent of our profits towards causes that really matter and that make a difference. And, to your kind of point about asking other people for money. And I will say that, it's really a place of, gratitude, and I feel really fortunate that I could do that. Not everybody has that, right? But I really wanted to do it in that way because I want to put my time, my effort, my love, my passion, my night and day, right, and my money to really prove that we can do this and we can make a difference in people's lives before I ask anyone else for their money and their time and their passion.
Exactly. So if you're taking that much amount of money, putting into it, that's mean it's worth investing on, and it's worth taking the chance on the students as well. So I think anyone that does, when you go for funding, I don't see why people wouldn't support it, because you only prove that it's worth it.
Exactly.
You're willing to lose into it. So, hey, it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it is really important to prove. Right? It is important to build that evidence for whatever you're hoping to build and whatever you're hoping to do.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. But also, I know you talk a little bit about VIDA, which is an e-commerce company that supports global makers and mindful consumption. So can you talk more a little bit about it?
Yeah, so that starts with, the passion that I had to one day become a fashion designer that, was not very successful at. And, so that kind of stuck with me too for all these years, especially as I was building my career in technology. And my thought was, could I use technology to solve this problem that I was facing many years ago? And so the idea was that, could we build a technical platform where any designer could design their line, launch it, and put it in front of customers? And if the customers want to buy the product, then the factories will make it, right?
Ooh.
Because you already have a customer. Because the chicken and egg is really the problem. The problem is that I first need to go find customers, who would pay me for my products. Then I will take it to the factory. But how do I find the customers if I don't have the product, right? And how do I make the product if I don't have the funding? So you just get stuck. You can't really start this process. So the idea was that we would build a technical platform where a designer could design something, and it would be really a rendering. You don't have to make the product, because when people are purchasing online, you've never seen that product in your hands, right?
Yes.
You just see it on your computer and you see it in your browser. And so, what if we could show you the product, and if the customer buys it, then the factory will make it. And by making it a platform where we could say, there's say 10 bags or 100 bags that we will create, or 1,000 bags that we will create, we can then take that order to a factory and we can get economies of scale. So what VIDA is it's a platform for artists and designers to design and launch their lines online, which customers can purchase. And then we produce everything on demand at mass scale. So that's kind of been the VIDA model. And then we have, all kinds of products on the platform, from apparel to accessories to home decor, technical accessories, etc.
So now let me make clear this for everyone that's going to listen to this. So they can actually go to VIDA website. They can actually look at the products, buy it from there. So they don't actually need to go anywhere else. They can just buy it from VIDA itself. Correct?
Yes. Yeah, that is correct. And all the products that you see on the VIDA website, that are apparel, accessories, home decor products, all the products you will see on the website, they're actually not made. Those are digital renderings. And the artist is providing the beautiful artwork, the unique artwork that is on these products. So, it's a little hard to see, but if you see the pillow behind me,
yes,
that is a VIDA pillow, and it's a beautiful geometric artwork, abstract artwork that an artist uploaded on our platform. And we would only produce that pillow when a customer would buy it. Now we are producing things en masse, so thousands of customers would buy the pillows, and we will produce them all, in one go, so we can have that economies of scale. But yes, you can purchase the product directly from the VIDA website.
So now, but when you say that you produce it all at once, is it your company itself that partner with the manufacturer to doing it, or is it the designer or the whoever is that's going to look for one to make it for them?
Yeah, great question. No, we already have established, and we've really worked hard to curate the factories that we want to work with, and we've established those relationships with factories from a lot of different parts of the world. So we have factories, here in the United States, we have factories in Pakistan, in India, in Sri Lanka, in China, Mexico. And so we've worked with a lot of factories to really build that manufacturing capability and platform. And our artists don't have to worry about anything. So if you are a designer, if you are an artist, what you do is you come to the VIDA website, and we have a VIDA studio, which is our studio for, creating and designing the products. You would upload your artwork, you would upload your designs, and you would select what products you want to sell. So you may say, I only want an apparel line, or you may say, I want a home decor line. And with a couple of clicks, you can design that product, launch that product, and then immediately that product is available for purchase. So when a customer purchases that product, we would take care of everything. The artist designer doesn't have to worry about it. They've just launched their line. They call it the Nagilia line, and it's there and it's all available. And then when customers go to the Nagilia website, on VIDA, and they purchased the product, then, our factories would produce it and we would send it to our logistics partners and we'll ship the product globally to all of our customers.
But this is awesome. You not only just solve your own problem. You remember you had that problem from the beginning, you not only solve it for yourself. The only thing is you're not a fashion designer.
It's a great thing to have problems. That's what I'm saying. That's my message.
Yes.
You have challenges.
Yes. But I think it's great for the designers and artists as well. It's like super easy, straight to the point, and then just focus on what you do the best. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, you said it right. Absolutely.
So now you also have another company called the Dreamfly.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that company?
Yeah, so Dreamfly is a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 nonprofit that I established now many years ago. I'm trying to remember, over 15 years ago or so. And the mission of the organization is to bring two communities that are in conflict around a common cause and really help people empower and educate, communities around the world. And so we started with building a school in my village. And as I mentioned, my family from my dad's side is largely all not literate. My aunts and uncles are not, can't read or write. And so, when I got into Harvard, I kind of felt that really quite, it was a painful thought that I'm at a place called Harvard and, my cousins don't even know that exists. My aunts and uncles can spell Harvard.
Yes.
And if I think about it, then, I'm not significantly smarter than, any of them. We're the same gene pool, so they're really incredibly smart people, but they haven't had that access. They haven't had that opportunity. So I started with raising capital in the U.S. I wanted to raise the money in the U.S. so I could create a connection between people in the United States and people in Pakistan or children in Pakistan. And this was post 9/11. All the news about Pakistan was all about all negative news. So I really wanted to create a human connection between those two communities. And so we started with that. We built a school. Now it's been so many years. We've actually had people graduate from that school who are now teachers in that school. And one of our graduates is an award-winning teacher in all of Pakistan. And so we started in Pakistan. Then we built a women's center and an education center in Afghanistan. Then we built another school in Rwanda, in post-genocide Rwanda, where the Hutu and the Tutsi communities came together to build that school with their hands. And then we also built a computer lab in India. We're now, really focusing Dreamfly to support One League scholarships, because our mission is really about education and empowerment and, from regions that are in conflict. And so, Dreamfly's kind of core focus now is about funding the scholarships for our students at One League.
So you look like you're about, I'll give you 25. So how do you accomplish so much at 25 years old?
I won't go into how old I actually am because I'm old. I don't know.
You look so young, but you accomplished so much. But not only that, everything you've done, it's not for yourself, it's for others. You care. I feel like you go to sleep and you wake up thinking about other people but yourself.
And isn't that a beautiful life? I'll tell you.
Yes, yes, it is. But not everyone do it,
Yeah.
Not everyone do it.
Out if they're not doing it. But I feel like a lot of people do it in so many different ways, And I feel like some stories are more visible than others, but I feel like we do all give back in so many different ways,
yes,
so many different levels. Yeah, as a mom, you're giving back. As a dad, you're giving back. Yeah, as a sibling, so I think you're always giving to your family, but I think to the extent of kind of really making an effort to solve problems, right? I would encourage Sometimes we get stuck in our own heads. Sometimes we get overwhelmed by our own challenges, which is only normal. It's only natural. It's only human. But I think it gives you strength, by actually getting yourself out of your heads and saying, this really difficult phase of life that I'm going through, what can I learn from it? And what can I do for others who might be going through that same phase? It actually gives you internal strength, by doing so. So yeah, yes. I feel like it does a lot for yourself, if not, even more than it does, for others when you are doing something for others.
Absolutely. Probably you can't solve the problem for yourself, but you can solve it for other people that will be going through the same thing you are going through right now.
Yeah.
So I love your way of thinking. Mm-hmm. So now you have all of these things you are doing to support others. So how can other people support you so you can continue to support others?
Thank you so much for asking that question. I would say definitely take a look at One League. We are so excited about the new classes that we're bringing in. We would love to partner with amazing people, like-minded people, and there's many, many ways to, connect with us and partner with us, be it being a mentor at One League, or be it, being an instructor at One League, or donating to One League and helping us build our scholarship fund. So many ways, that we would be really looking to partner with amazing people, like-minded people, who want to give back, who want to really help us build the next generation of leadership, all around the world.
And absolutely. And I think that everything that you are doing is amazing. And if you ever need any support, please feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to also support you along the way anyhow that I can. But do you have any advice for future businesswomen?
I would say that starting is maybe the hardest thing to do. If you are thinking of starting a company, if you're thinking of starting an initiative, that first step sometimes can be the hardest. But take that first step, just overlook the fear, just ignore it, ignore that little voice that is maybe telling you that, can I really do this? Will I be successful? What if I fail? And just do it. Just do it. Just take that first step, because from that point on, it's one foot in front of the other. It's one step at a time. And, you will find that way. So I do think that first step is generally, the hardest. I really believe in the power of curiosity. If you are curious about something, do something about it. I do believe that leading your life with curiosity actually does so much for you and so much for others, because that curiosity gives you compassion. That curiosity gives you empathy, because you want to learn about the other. But also that curiosity gets you out of your own head. You're really thinking about the world outside rather than what's going on inside your head. And with that curiosity, you can build conviction. So those are sort of my 3 C's: the curiosity, compassion, and conviction. With that conviction and curiosity, is where you can really kind of go out and think about the problems that, matter to you, the problems that are close to your heart, the problems that have, really impeded your life, and think about, how you can turn those challenges into, those moments of superpowers and moments of strength that you can then offer back to the world. And it is about that unique, person that you are. Don't hide away from it, from your roots, from anything that is, maybe growing up you were embarrassed about, but who you are matters a lot. Your lived experience matters a lot, because only you have that, and only you can offer that back to the world. So own that, be proud of it, and think about what you can do with everything that you got.
Be who you are. Just be you. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to share with us before I let you go today?
No, it was wonderful connecting with you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Such a wonderful conversation. Really, really enjoyed meeting you. Love your name. Love everything about you. And I hope we're in touch.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge and also all the great things you have been doing, because we need to share more stories of women like yourself that's helping, that's giving back to the communities, and then creating hope for this world. Hope is something that we need. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Nagilia, hope. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Oh my goodness, what a great conversation with Umaimah. From living in a rural village in Pakistan to homeschooling, graduating from Harvard Business School to starting VIDA in one league and a nonprofit named Dreamfly. She is a role model for all women in the world. Thank you, Umaimah, for taking the time to have this conversation with me. Let me know your thoughts about this episode with Umaimah. And to learn more about Umaimah in One League, visit www.one-league.org. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.